Level 1. The candidate. You are 17, maybe 16. The military doesn't always wait. A recruiter came to your school, or what passes for a school, and watched you during physical drills. Your eyesight was tested. Your family's songbun was checked. Songbun is the loyalty classification system that has governed North Korean life since the 1950s. It tracks not just you, but your grandparents, what they did during the Korean War, which side they were on, whether anyone in your bloodline ever defected, complained, or was seen reading something they shouldn't have been reading. If your songbun is low, you don't get selected for sniper training. You get assigned to construction battalions or mining units where soldiers dig coal with their hands, and the casualty rate is never reported. If your songbun is high enough and your eyes are sharp enough, you are taken. The first 6 months are not about shooting. They are about breaking. Sleep deprivation structured as training. Meals that do not match the calories being burned. Political education sessions that run for 3 hours after physical drills that already lasted 8. You study the Juche ideology, the philosophy of self-reliance that keeps North Korea isolated from the world, and its citizens isolated from any thought the state did not generate first. You recite passages. You are tested. You do not fail the test. At level 1, they are not building a sniper. They are finding out who you actually are when everything comfortable has been removed. The shooting comes later. First, they need to know if you will break, comply, or disappear inside yourself, and perform compliance while thinking something else entirely. The third type is the most dangerous to the state. They are also, historically, the ones who become the best snipers. Level 2. The apprentice marksman. You have survived the first phase. Now you pick up the rifle. The standard issue is the Type 88, a North Korean variant of the AK-74. But sniper candidates train on the PSL and occasionally Soviet-era Dragunov SVD rifles, weapons older than most of their instructors that are maintained with a care that borders on reverence because replacement parts do not exist, and manufacturing new ones is not something the budget allows. You learn the fundamentals that every sniper in every military learns: breathing control, trigger discipline, the relationship between wind and bullet drop over distance. Your instructor has likely never seen combat. The Korean People's Army has not fought a conventional war since 1953. What your instructor has is doctrine. Soviet doctrine absorbed decades ago and preserved in training manuals that have not been substantially updated since, and an absolute intolerance for failure that functions as a substitute for genuine expertise. You shoot at ranges between 300 and 600 meters. You are required to achieve groupings that would be considered acceptable in any professional military. You achieve them on less food than those militaries would consider humane. Cold is a permanent condition. The training ranges in the northern provinces operate through winter because the Korean People's Army believes that discomfort during training reduces fear during deployment. Whether deployment ever comes is a question nobody asks out loud. At level 2, a soldier in the adjacent bunk was caught with a notebook. He had been writing down things he observed. Not secrets, not plans, just observations. The notebook was confiscated. He was taken for questioning. He did not return to the barracks. Nobody asked where he went. This is also part of the training. Level 3, the operational sniper. You have a designation now, a unit, a position within a hierarchy that extends from your immediate commander all the way up to the supreme commander, who is also the general secretary, who is also the head of state, who is also a deity in the specific theological framework the Korean People's Army uses to explain why his authority is absolute, and why questioning it is not merely treason, but something closer to blasphemy. Your operational role is threefold. Counter-sniper work along the DMZ, the demilitarized zone that is one of the most heavily armed borders on Earth, watched from both sides by men trained to watch. Psychological operations, because a visible sniper position communicated to the other side does political work without firing a single round. And internal security, which is the function nobody discusses in the official literature, but which every operational sniper understands completely. The Korean People's Army does not only point outward, it points inward too. At level 3, your loyalty is tested in ways that feel less like tests and more like ordinary life. You are watched. Your conversations are noted. The political officer assigned to your unit the equivalent of the Soviet Zampolit. Files reports on who spoke to whom, who laughed at something they shouldn't have laughed at, who fell silent when the Supreme Commander's name was mentioned instead of responding with the required expression of reverence. You learn very quickly that the performance of belief is indistinguishable from belief itself if you perform it long enough. You have now been in the Korean People's Army for 4 years. You have not spoken to your family without those conversations being monitored. You have not read anything the state did not provide. You have not asked a question that wasn't already answered by doctrine. You are, by every external measure, exactly what the system designed you to be. Whether anything else survives inside that exterior is information you keep to yourself. Level 4. The instructor. You teach now, which means the system trusts you, or has calculated that making you responsible for producing more soldiers like yourself is the most efficient use of what you have become. The candidates you train are younger than you were when you started. The recruitment age has been quietly lowering as the pool of eligible men with high enough songbun, good enough eyesight, strong enough bodies, continues to shrink. Malnutrition is not a word used in official communications. The official communications describe the Korean People's Army as the most powerful and well-provisioned fighting force on Earth. You have seen the rations. You do the arithmetic quietly and keep the result to yourself. You teach what you were taught. You replicate the doctrine. You replicate the cold. You replicate the sleep deprivation and the political education sessions and the tolerance for discomfort that the system believes creates soldiers, and that you now understand creates something more complicated. Men who have survived something, which is different from men who are prepared for something. At level 4, an instructor 2 positions above you was removed from his post. The official reason was not given. The unofficial reason, passed in fragments between people who trusted each other enough to whisper, was that he had been found in possession of a radio capable of receiving signals from outside the country. What he heard on that radio, nobody knew. What it cost him, everyone understood. Level 5. The Elite Unit Operator. There are approximately 100,000 Special Operations Forces in the Korean People's Army. Within that structure, the sniper units attached to the most sensitive operations, reconnaissance behind enemy lines, leadership protection, the operations that appear in no document and are acknowledged in no briefing, are a fraction of a fraction. You are in that fraction. Your training at this level involves things that the levels below it do not. Extended solo operations, psychological resilience testing that is indistinguishable from psychological damage, the ability to remain completely motionless for periods that test the boundary between discipline and physical endurance. You have been still for 11 hours. You have been deployed across the border in training exercises where the consequence of discovery was not a training consequence. Here is the truth it takes most men at this level a decade to understand. The Korean People's Army does not value you. It values your function. The distinction sounds philosophical. It is entirely practical. When your function is no longer needed, or when the cost of maintaining your function exceeds its value, the calculation is made without sentiment and without ceremony. The state that shaped every belief you hold, controlled every conversation you had, decided what you read and what you ate and who you were allowed to love. That state views your continued existence as a resource allocation question. The sniper understands distance better than any other soldier. The gap between the crosshairs and the target. The gap between the trigger and the sound. The gap between what is briefed and what is true. He has spent his entire career learning to account for that gap. He has never once been allowed to name it out loud. Somewhere in North Korea tonight, a 17-year-old with good eyesight and the right family history is being watched by someone taking notes. He doesn't know it yet. He doesn't know what it costs. He doesn't know that the weapon they are about to put in his hands is the least dangerous thing the system will ever give him. The most dangerous thing was always the uniform.